Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you guys submit your gaming or Battlefield 3 related questions, and then I give my opinion on them. If you'd like to submit your own question, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or sending me a YouTube message with the title line Q&A, and I could potentially talk about it in an upcoming episode. The first question for today comes in from Rar Shuga, who asks, do you think that Battlefield 4 should have in-game trainers to help newer players learn how to capture points, arm and defuse bombs, use their items like the medkit, ammo pack, C4, as well as pilot choppers, tanks, etc. Taking it a step further, players could unlock certifications for vehicles like a pilot's license and then only be allowed to enter those vehicles if they were certified for them. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to have some sort of tutorial system in Battlefield 4, even if it's just some videos that explain the basics of the game. I mean, I think that would help out a lot of newer players. Granted, I don't think a lot of you out there would need to use it, but for someone who was new to the Battlefield franchise, it would probably ease them into the game mechanics, get them more accustomed to the game, and they would feel a lot more comfortable joining the multiplayer and enjoying themselves. Not only that, but if they actually introduced a robust tutorial system that could teach players how to actually use vehicles efficiently and not just crash them into the ground every 5 seconds, I think that would be a huge help. One of the main problems of the Battlefield franchise is that some of the vehicles are quite difficult to use and to pilot, especially the helicopters and the jets. I don't even fly in the jets because I find them just that difficult to use. And I think that if they gave us some sort of tutorial system that allowed you to spawn into jets instantaneously, you could fly them around for as long as you want. They would kind of teach you some basic maneuvers and how to use the vehicles efficiently. That would be amazing, and I think that should really be applied to any first-person shooter out there that's going to be coming out. Especially one comes to mind is PlanetSide 2. PlanetSide 2 is an extremely complicated game, and it could kind of be a turnoff for newer players who join into it, have absolutely no idea what's going on, die a bunch of times, think that this is stupid, and then never return. And while I don't think Battlefield 4 is as complicated as that, and I don't think it's going to have that problem as much, I still think DICE should do whatever they can to bring in a new market, get people accustomed to the game, and to continue to play that game. And I think tutorials would be a great step in the right direction. The next question for today is, how do you feel about getting rid of the class system in Battlefield? I realize that the class system is something that Battlefield is known for, but I really think that some classes are just better than others, which is unfair and makes for constant use of certain classes over others. Obviously, we know the Recon class is the worst, but that wouldn't be the case if a player could simply select what perk, lack for a better term, to use. For example, a player could select a sniper rifle and use a medkit or an LMG with a tugs or something like that. I also don't like the fact that only the engineers can take out tanks. So I do understand where you're coming from. The Recon class does feel a lot weaker than the other ones out there, and that's mainly due in part to a couple of reasons, which I'm not going to get into for today's video. But you're absolutely right. A lot of people out there run as the assault class. They use some of the best weapons in the game. They have their handy-dandy medkit, and that's kind of all you see on some maps. It's just people running as assault. And while I do think that's a problem that DICE needs to address, I think if they completely got rid of the class system, it would really hurt the Battlefield franchise. I mean, the first reason why they have classes in Battlefield is for balancing reasons. It's basically a big game of rock, paper, scissors. You got the engineers, which are able to take out enemy vehicles, but their weapons aren't as good at taking out infantry units. And then on the flip side, you have the assault class, which is great at taking out enemy infantry, but it's not, you cannot take out enemy vehicles. And then you have the Recon class, which is great at taking people out at long range, but then when you get into a close encounter engagement, the other classes are just going to blow your face off. And so if DICE completely got rid of that system, I have a feeling what would pretty much occur is everyone would use the best weapons in the game. You'd pretty much see everyone using the M16A3 and the M416 because arguably they are the best and everyone would gravitate towards it. And you said that you don't want to see people using the same kit over and over and everyone, all using the assault class, but if you completely got rid of the class system, what you would find is basically the same thing where everyone would use the same weapons. They would switch out the equipment accordingly to the situation that presents itself. So if a tank, rolls on in, they die, they'll switch to an RPG really quick, take it out, and then switch back on over to their med kit once they die. And and you would basically just rinse and repeat that thing, and the game, in my opinion, would become extremely stale, and for balancing reasons, it would be a nightmare. I mean, basically, you would have some weapons that wouldn't be used at all because they would be completely useless, and then you would just have everyone gravitating towards the best one. So I think it would be a terrible idea for the Battlefield franchise, and I just don't think it would work. But I would love to know what you guys think. Do you guys think for future titles they should go down this route? You guys know what I think, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. The final question for today comes in from Age of Runes, who asks, I would like to know what your thoughts are about the Stinger/Ilga, because when I fly a jet or chopper, I have the feeling I'm so vulnerable against them. They lock on very quickly, which makes them very hard to avoid with ECM Jammer or flares. Am I the only one thinking this, or do you think the same? So I've never really been a fan of the lock-on system in Battlefield 3. I think it's a very difficult system to balance, at least the way it is right now. And that's mainly due in part for a couple of reasons. The first reason being is that it doesn't require any skill on the part of the player actually using the Stinger missile. All they have to do is basically look at the enemy air vehicle, click a button once it actually gets locked, and then the missile does everything for them. And I just think that not having any skill required for an anti-air missile is just a bad way to handle things. You know, and I like the system in Bad Company 2. I realized that there were not jets in Bad Company 2, and the flight ceiling was a lot lower in that game as well, but it definitely required a lot more skill, and it required skill on both the player on the ground and the pilot to avoid getting taken out, and I like that dynamic. But in Battlefield 3, that's really not the case, especially since the most recent patch where they increased the range of the Stinger missile. And that's where we run into the second problem, where DICE has to balance the game with two air vehicles in mind. They have to balance it for jets, and they also have to balance it for helicopters. And in my opinion, what they've done with the most recent change is made it so that while jets now are more vulnerable to Stingers, they've made it so that Stingers are just way too powerful against enemy helicopters because they're basically always in range of the Stinger missile. They don't have a quick way of getting out of the way. And if there's no terrain that can block the Stinger missile, you just basically get shot out of the sky extremely quickly. So it really just is a combination of not requiring any skill on the part of the player actually using the Stinger missile, and the fact that they have to balance for both jets and helicopters where we're in the predicament as we are right now. They just don't know how to make it so that the Stingers feel useful against enemy jets, but also aren't overpowered against helicopters. So hopefully they're going to be able to figure something out for their upcoming titles. I believe in DICE. I think they can figure something out, but hopefully they will try to move away from their lock-on system and to something that requires a little bit more skill. But yeah, guys, those are all the questions I'm going to be answering for today. But before I go, I would love to hear what you guys thought about today's topics. Let me know in the comments section below. But if you guys enjoyed today's video or just want to support my channel, I always appreciate it when you give my videos a rating. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more. But until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.